Hi, welcome to InFocus Recouched, where we revisit some of the highlights of the Record in Focus program over the past few years.
Yeah, today we're going to see an interview with the creator of the Alice Miranda children's books. We'll learn how to take care of our eyes better. And James Standish gives his opinion on religious freedom and blood transfusions.
Oh, okay, interesting. That's all coming up. But first, let's take a look at this interview, which quite frankly, Dora, surprised me because I had thought of Grant Norsworthy pretty much as just a musician, but there is so much more to his story.
Awesome, let's take a look.
And it's a privilege to welcome to this studio, all the way from Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, Grammy Award nominated, Dove Award winning Grant Norsworthy. How are you, Grant?
I'm doing well, thanks, Kent. You know what it means when they say Grammy nominated?
It means you didn't win.
That's right, you lost. But it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here. Now, what brings you to Australia?
Well,
back to Australia, I should say.
Yeah, quite a few reasons. I'm a Melbourne, Australia boy, but I live in Nashville, Tennessee, as you said. The main reason for this trip was to bring baby Marcus, a new addition to our family, home. And my wife's from New Zealand, so we showed him over there for a couple of weeks and a couple of weeks in Australia. And yeah, there you go. In fact, I think we've got a photo of the family to show.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah. We can see in that photograph me, of course, my wife Brooke. She's the New Zealander, I'm the Australian.
Okay.
And together, the New Zealand and the Australian, we have two Americans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Max, our 6-year-old, he was born in Nashville, Tennessee, and Marcus, the new addition, came to our family on February the 14th, Valentine's Day, by adoption.
Okay, well, and I understand when he first came to your family, he wasn't very healthy. What was going on?
No, that's right. I say he came to our family on February 14th, but he was born on January 14th, 7 weeks premature.
Oh, wow.
And we were contacted over there. We'd been going through this very long, lengthy and rather arduous process to adopt. We really felt like our family should be bigger than just one kid.
One child. What motivated that, like adoption? Well,
I had to say mainly Brooke, you know. I'm a little bit more serendipitous about these sort of things, but my wife was like, no, there's some gaps in our family. We don't know how many gaps really yet. And we were really trying to, I guess, as sincere followers of Jesus, we're like, God, we really feel like there should be more kids in our family. And we felt like the answer to that was yes, there should be more kids. And our plan A was, well, the normal sort of way, you know, the way Max arrived, you know, reproducing our DNA. But over time and some pretty key events, I would say that God really changed our human plan A into a bigger His plan A. You know, we believe in a God who's redemptive and loving, and He knows what's best for us more than we do.
So were you expecting to adopt a child that had serious health problems, or was
No, we just really believed that God was going to lead us to the right little person. And so when we got contacted saying, look, there's a child in Wichita, Kansas, who's been in a hospital for a month. He was born 7 weeks premature. He's had a brain hemorrhage that seems to have slowed down. He's got a hole in his heart, and he's got some malformation in his throat and larynx that makes him stop breathing from time to time.
Oh, wow.
And we didn't want to approach that invitation to have our profile submitted for possible selection to be his parents. We didn't want to approach it like it was a menu for us, like a la carte. Do we think this child's right? We just had to have faith. I'm so glad we did. We just went, all right, submit our profile. Yes, ask the birth mother if she would select us. And she did. I don't suppose I really understand her life, but she's a single woman in a single bedroom apartment with 3 other kids already. No husband, no man, no real family support to count on.
She wasn't in a position to look after Marcus, I guess.
Right, and I think she was wise enough to be able to realise that this little guy with all these problems, she's not going to be able to be as attentive as she would need to be.
Boy, that must have been the toughest decision.
Right, and she wasn't even able to say to us, look, my heart wants to keep Marcus, but my head knows this is the right choice, and my heart will catch up.
Yeah. So you're still in contact with her?
Yeah, and you know, Marcus is going to know his story. I mean, he's got some darker skin than the rest of the family, so it's going to be pretty obvious. But yeah, he's going to know, and our son Max knows that there's 2 ways that children can come to a family, and it turns out to us that you know, Brooke and I have realised that this idea of adoption is really central to the heart of God. You know, so when Marcus came to us...
Is it my imagination, or do a lot of evangelical Christians in the US right now seem to be reconsidering adoption as a way to, you know, to reach out to the world, to a broken, hurting world?
Well, I could certainly say this. I don't know if many parents are thinking, this is the way I'm going to evangelise the world, in that sense. But I think people are realising that, wow, this idea of adoption is central to who God is. Well, things like, for example, do you know anything about Matthew 1, the first chapter of Matthew? It's a really dull read usually. The
genealogy?
Right. It's just this. This is the genealogy of Jesus, and it starts with Abraham was the father of Isaac, and it just goes on and on and on. It's like 42 different names and more mentioned there. But the name right before Jesus is Joseph.
Well, who wasn't Jesus' biological dad? Yeah.
No DNA there, not in the way we understand anyway. And then I realised things like every time the Apostle Paul writes brother, he's speaking to Gentiles,
Yeah.
And he's saying, you've been adopted into the family.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so I think that's the thought that's being switched on in America. Like, I'm part of a church community in Nashville, Tennessee, on the east side, the cool side.
Yeah.
And I'm surrounded by these multicoloured families because people are just realising that God's new plan A could involve for my family adopting rather than seeing my DNA reproduced. And any parent knows, another child, there's more love. There's another layer of my onion of selfishness is peeled away. And my selfish I wants get changed to be more like God's I wants.
Yeah.
I think that's what happens when our families get bigger.
Yeah.
We have to surrender another layer of, well, I want to do this and I want to do that because I've got this child who I just can't help but love and want to care for.
Yeah, well, and look at him now. He's incredibly healthy, isn't he?
He's fine. He gave us some big scares.
Yeah. He
really did. One in particular where it was 911, the number you call for paramedics and going to the hospital, and like I had burned in my memory this moment where Brooke picked him up and he had stopped breathing.
Wow.
And this is 3 days after we'd been told to take him off the monitors. He was fine now.
Yeah.
And to reduce his medication. And sure enough, he was gone, man. I've never been so frightened in my life, but I've got burned in my memory this picture of Brooke grabbing him off the couch, and he was a little grey, lifeless rag doll.
Yeah. No, that's scary, yeah.
But he came back. And I've got a photo of Max and Marcus, more recent, just a month or so ago.
Yeah.
He's great. He's arrived, and I tell you what, I don't feel any differently about Marcus or Max.
Wow.
DNA, I think it's overrated.
It's an incredible journey, Grant, and it's interesting. Some of what you were saying about it's not enough just to read the Bible. The Bible coming alive, I think, is really reflected in the opening track, to the album you brought out last year.
Right, yeah, my little Resident Alien album.
Jesus loves me, but I need more.
Yeah.
It's not just enough to read the Bible. It's about that Bible becoming alive. The Word, Jesus becoming alive.
Yeah, John 1.
Yeah.
The Word of God is Jesus himself. And, I grew up singing, Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. And I think that's a beautiful song with a good sentiment.
Well, and you've used it in...
Right,
yeah.
and I've rewritten it there to remind us, but it's the words that are like opening or inviting God to speak through the words.
That's incredible. Hey, well, thanks so much for your time today, Grant. And
thanks
for your music. Check it out on Grant's website there. The address is up on your screen. Some of it's more acoustic, some of it's a bit more upbeat. It's a good mix. Yeah.
And it's called Resident Alien.
And what we'll do, just as we go to an ad break, we'll just play a little clip from this album. Check it out.
Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. I need more than the words on a page. The words are good, but the author I crave. I need more than the words on a page to show that you love me. I do, I do, I do, I do. I do.
Wow, he has such a big heart, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Adopting a baby, and especially one with special needs.
Yeah, look, I think so. You know, so often we think of Christian charity as being something, you know, you just do on Tuesday night, maybe, you know,
Yeah.
or maybe you just sort of make a regular donation to a certain charity.
Exactly.
But Grant Norsworthy and his wife are living Christian love every day of their lives right there in their home.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. We'll take a short break now. Back in just a moment.
We're going to start with some soybeans. Use some chickpeas, a onion, you have a teaspoon of salt, slice some tomatoes, slice some cucumber, some red onion just to give it a bit of freshness. So just make little falafels like this. They just smell amazing. Let's make our tahini dressing. Let's get in some tomatoes, cucumbers, some falafels. Drizzle some of this lovely dressing. All you need to do is roll it up and you've got a delicious lunch for your family.
Hi, welcome back. Now, Ken, I think it's time to get our James on. Because James Standish is featured in the next two segments. Firstly, as our religious freedom expert on the controversial topic of blood transfusions.
Ooh, okay.
And secondly, as the interviewer for a segment with Doc Wright on eye care.
Oh, okay. Well, let's check it out. Now, James, often we talk about issues in other countries around the world. Today I'd like to talk about something right here in New South Wales.
Okay.
A young man, a few months short of his 18th birthday, with a life-threatening condition. And he's being told by doctors that he needs to have a blood transfusion or he very well may die.
Right.
Now, he's refusing that treatment because he's a Jehovah's Witness. And Jehovah's Witnesses generally don't accept blood transfusions. How do we balance up someone's life versus their religious freedom in a situation like this?
Well, this is a very complicated situation, but it's one that's being dealt with fairly consistently between Australia, Canada, United States, and Australia as far as how we handle this in the law. Generally speaking, people have a right to refuse any and all medical treatment, excuse me, once they become adults.
Right.
But before they're adults, we have a legal doctrine that says that the state has a parental responsibility for children. It's the same doctrine why we remove kids from abusive homes and also interfere with parental rights in those situations. In this particular case, we say that if a child is about to die or has a very high likelihood of dying, the state has the right, under those circumstances, to act like a parent, like a surrogate parent, and preserve the life of the child, even if the child, him or herself, doesn't want that treatment.
Wow. So, but in this particular case, so this young man, as I said, is nearly 18.
Right.
And surely has the maturity to sort of see the consequences for his behaviour, and yet this seemingly, arbitrary line of 18 years old is standing in his way.
Well, you have to draw a line somewhere. We could say that there's a very mature 13-year-old or a very mature 15-year-old. In New South Wales, we've drawn the line at 18. If he wants to refuse treatment in a few months when he turns 18, he has every right to do so. Up until that time, he doesn't.
Okay. Now, James, just let me jump in there. You, as a spokesperson for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, is a part of what you're saying here, sympathy for Jehovah's Witnesses because Seventh-day Adventists also refuse blood transfusions?
No, of course not, Ken. People aren't necessarily the most sophisticated about religion, but Adventists run a very large healthcare system around the world, which of course does blood transfusion, organ transplants, all the things that go into modern healthcare. My own father was a physician and have a few more in the family.
No similarity there. Okay.
No similarity there. But I want to make clear, too, my position that is not that children should be able to refuse medical care when it would save their lives. I think the law has actually got the right balance here. I do believe that the state, acting as in its parental capacity when a parent has put a life of a child in danger, has every right to go in there.
And responsibility,
Has a responsibility, has a compelling responsibility. Yes, There might be situations that are closer calls, but this case is not one where there's we talk about someone's life. We're talking about the difference that a blood transfusion can make, and we have these similar cases when after trauma or accidents and so forth. Once again, the state has the right to save the life of the child. When that child grows up and they're an adult, let them make their own decisions.
Different story. Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for your time today, James.
Thanks so much for having me, Ken.
Today we talk about eye care. James, according to the British Medical Journal, which of course all doctors should get, you've got to pay for it, but so half of them don't get it. We do because it has good information. And they have just published a study which says that worldwide there are 150 million people visually impaired. Now, as you pointed out to me earlier, there are probably a whole lot more, but these are people who can't actually physically read because of eye impairment, which means they've got jiggered up lenses. Now, would you believe it? What do these people do? Well, not a lot. In most cases, they can't afford it. Now, a guy in London has prepared a gadget which he calls Ad Specs. Now, these are the Ad Specs. And they're weird-looking things like great big goggles. Now, the glass is 2 layers, and these little things are pumps, and the person, the wearer, pumps fluid into the area between the front and back part of the lens until he can actually see. He does that eye, then he does that eye. And then he goes it to a stage where he himself, or she or herself, can actually read.
Well, it seems like that would be very useful, particularly in places where there aren't a lot of optometrists available.
I know, absolutely. And then when you get this, of course, you can then go along and give it to someone who actually makes glasses and say, here it is, make that exactly as it is, and they can usually get a pair of glasses for $10 instead of paying the average price of about $200 or $300 or $400 on the average market when you go and see an eye doctor or an optometrist.
But this could revolutionise people's lives all over the world.
Absolutely. At a fraction of the cost that it would normally cost. The problem, of course, with all these modern Western things that we have is the cost factor. And there are millions of people all over the world who, with access to this very simple, very cheap thing, can get normal vision, which is great. So there you are. That's the latest on for folk, the do-it-yourself type of thing, and people can help themselves do it yourself, making your eyes okay.
It's an ingenious development that indicates that sometimes there's a new way of doing something that we've been doing a long time in one particular way. We can totally revolutionise it. People want more health news. Where should they go?
Absolutely. They go to docwright.com.au. Type in your symptom, click, and up she comes. 4 or 5 little bits of information about your problem, and we hope it solves it. And good luck to you all. Love you all, and have a good day.
Well, it looks like the eyes have it, Dora.
You should warn people before you make a dad joke like that.
No, it's all about the element of surprise, Dora. Stay with us. More InFocus Recouched straight after the break.
Father, I can't connect the dots through the little that I understand. What words can I say to reach you? How can I know that you are there, listening, hearing, caring? My words are broken, weak, and powerless. But I know your power is limitless. What can I say?
We live our lives running around, rarely stopping to ask ourselves where we're going and what our final destination is. In the end, our lives become little more than routine. Step beyond and discover a path that offers comfort, love, and hope. Visit hopeoffer.com/step beyond or call 1300 300 389 for your free copy today.
Now, just in case, Ken, you're already missing seeing James Standish on screen, this next interview, we'll see him in the interviewer's chair once again, but this time with children's author Jacqueline Harvey.
Oh, yes. I remember he was very excited about meeting her. Take a look.
She's an educator an educational administrator, but she is a hero at my house because she's also a children's author. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks very much,
Now,
Dave.
I see that you brought a friend with you, Jacqueline.
I did. This is Alice Miranda, and she's, I guess, the main character in a series that I've been writing for the last few years. And yeah, she's actually been on a lot of travels with me recently around the world too.
You're doing an amazing job with this book. I just want you to know, my kids have read every one of your books. The Clementine Rose, also another character that you've read, and you've just come out with a new book, which is Alice Miranda in Paris.
Yes.
What inspired you to start writing like this?
I think I always wanted to be a writer ever since I was a child, but I didn't really know how writers, how did they do that? They were always quite mysterious. My favourite authors growing up were people like Enid Blyton, Anna Sewell, Joanna Spyri. Sadly, when I was reading their stories, they'd all passed on.
Right.
And so, the idea of how you would do it, it was a mystery. So in the beginning, I started writing plays and poems and stories for the children in my classes.
Right, and you were teaching at Abbottsley, which is a Anglican school, girls' school, just right near our studio.
Quite nearby here, yeah. I worked in another school before that, down in the Southern Highlands, called Gibgate. And really I started writing when I was teaching, and I guess it took a long time to get up the confidence to write something that I would send to a publisher. Right. And it was really my husband he said to me about probably 12 years ago, he said, you talk about this writing all the time. Are you ever going to do anything about it, or are you going to talk about it for the rest of your life? And I thought, you know what, I really don't want to die wondering. I want to give it a good go and see whether I could. And so that's how I did it.
Well, apparently your husband was onto something. I want to tell you what we as a family love about your books, and that is Alice Miranda she's kind of the kind of person that you wish you were and that you hope your kids will be. Do you write that intentionally in that way? It's sort of a problem solver, positive, lots of challenges, but able to engage with those challenges in a very constructive, positive way.
Yeah, I think that's definitely her. She's been described to me by a man in the US, actually an agent in the US, who said, she's the best version of who you'd want to be. And I thought that was such a lovely compliment. I see her as a character that lots of children would either want to be or certainly want to be friends with. And in the beginning, I don't think that it was completely intentional that she would be so good, but she kind of grew like that. And I wanted her to be good, but in a way that people didn't get sort of sick of and think was saccharine and sweet, Right. So yeah, I love that she has loads of adventures and that she really is a good friend to everyone.
Now, one of the things that you said is that there's an element of Christian values or really positive values in these books. What kind of values do you think come out?
I think certainly being a good friend, family is really important to Alice Miranda. Although she goes to boarding school, her family adore her and she adores them. And, it's her...
How refreshing it can happen.
Exactly, it can happen. You don't have to be sent to boarding school because, there's this perception that you're a naughty or something.
Right.
I think that the other values that come across, she's very courageous. She's very good at seeing the person behind the behaviour. So, for example, when she first meets a girl called Jacinta Headlington Bear, when she first goes to her boarding school, Jacinta's having a mighty great tantrum and, the sort of tantrum that would make most children run the other way and duck for cover. And Alice Miranda doesn't do that. She goes straight into the gymnasium where this girl is and she tries to befriend her. Now, the girl sort of... pushes her advances away and takes off and does these amazing tumble turns down the gym mats.
Right.
And eventually, when the girl comes back to her, she stands in front of Alice Miranda and says, my name is Jacinta Headlington Bear and nobody likes me. Right. And Alice Miranda's response to that is, well, I can't understand why. You're simply the cleverest gymnast. Why don't you tell me what's the matter?
Isn't that great? I mean, don't you wish, at least I wish I had that kind of emotional intelligence.
Well, I wish I could have been as brave as her as a child. And also, that idea that she confronts difficulties really head on and in a way that kind of charms people as well.
Now, these books, I just tell you, all the girls in my children's class are reading these books, but not just that. I've seen kids all around our area. They're selling like hotcakes in Australia. And I understand that it's not just Australia. You've gone global.
I have. It's very exciting. It's it's the dream come true. I have the first 2 Alice Miranda books published in the United States, with the 3rd one coming this year in May. And I've actually just been to England and across the UK doing a book tour to launch book number 3 and 4, and yeah, it's going to sort of keep continuing. And Clementine Rose is being released in the UK in August.
Now, Clementine Rose is for younger children, so
she is.
Right.
She is. I guess I can hold up and show you. She's a really sweet little girl. She's very different to Alice Miranda because I suppose she's one of those children who has always got the best of intentions, but things don't always go the way that she wants them to. So despite the fact that she's well-intentioned, you know, sometimes things mess up. She has a really cute pet. She has a teacup pig called Lavender, and she lives with her mother, and they actually have a butler, but he's more like a great uncle to her. And yeah, she lives quite close to Alice Miranda. So although at the moment they don't know each other,
but
very
maybe
soon,
hold your breath,
very soon they will.
That's fabulous. You know, one of the things that I love about these books is they're children's books that are written actually for children.
Yes.
So even though there's conflict and there's things that come up that are scary and so forth, they're actually books that your children can read and just enjoy and love, and they're not adult books pitched at kids.
No, not at all. And that, I think that was actually very deliberate. Before I started this series, I spent quite a lot of time analysing what were the books that I loved as a child and why did I love them? What was it about them that made them you know, so appealing? And also I looked at books that have really stood the test of time and that have those themes that really are timeless. And so I have a whiteboard at home, and I wrote down a whole lot of things. You know, what would I want in a story? I would want mystery, adventure. I want the kids to be in charge, you know, to a certain extent. I want evil baddies and and characters with some depth about them. And the other thing that I decided, I wanted loads of yummy food in my books, because you know, which kids don't like chocolate brownies or you know, apple pie or whatever. So yeah, so it was quite a deliberate, I guess, exercise on my part to think about what is it that children love in a timeless adventure.
Well, thank you so much, Jacqueline, for coming on. We've put the website for those who want to go and see the websites. I know that Alice Miranda is not only a character, she's also blogging.
She does have a blog.
Very clever
Very
character.
clever, yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of our viewers will enjoy the books. Their kids will enjoy them as much as we have. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure, James. Thank you very much for having me.
Boy, she seems like a really lovely person, doesn't she, Dora?
Yeah, I think so. And good on her for the positive influence she's having on kids.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's it for InFocus Recouched for this week. We really hope you enjoyed the program, which is, of course, available to watch again at our website, infocus.org.au.
Yeah, please check it out, share it, and don't forget to stay in touch. Thanks for your company this week. We'll see you next time.
God bless.